listening to the news that Lloyds Banking Group, 41% of which we own, we taxpayers that is, has returned to profit for the first half of the year. Pre-tax profit at the bank came in at £1.6 billion. Wonder how long it would take you to count that in pound coins. The government-owned Northern Rock also reported a return to profit for the same period. According to some reports, that means we taxpayers are sitting on an estimated paper profit of £7.4 billion. Sounds good, doesn't it? So what should be done now? Sell up or wait and see if a bigger profit for the Exchequer might come along in a few years? Well, we're joined by Jonathan Davis, who's an economist and investment advisor, and our local economist and friend, John Simpson. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, Jonathan, this all sounds very exciting, doesn't it? We taxpayers have a profit of $7.4 billion, so when are we going to see some of it?
Well, we should be selling right now because the share prices of these banks have risen dramatically over the last year or so, and in line with the general stock market. If we don't sell now, I fear that the government, which means us, we're going to be holding shares which are going to fall dramatically in the next leg down in the stock market. And on top of that, we know there's going to be a commercial property collapse. So the bad loans by these banks are going to go through the stratosphere. So we're possibly going to be tapped for even more money.
John, all these figures, I mean, it just becomes, I don't know. I mean, I listen to all this news and all these figures and billions here and hundreds of millions here, and it leaves you totally baffled.
Well, because we're talking billions and millions instead of talking about £5 and £10, which is normally my measured value, but Joe, yours is probably a bit more.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Just to say, in terms of much of what Jonathan has just said, I would want to take issue with. But there's one thing I think we probably would agree on, that the fact that the Lloyds has returned to profitable operations is no big surprise. And we will get some news, I presume, in the near future about Royal Bank of Scotland, which is the parent company of the Ulster.
So is it too simple to think along these lines? Is it too simple just to think those banks were in trouble, so taxpayers' money was used to bail them out? Now the banks are making money, so taxpayers should get some of their money back. Is that just far too simple?
That's not a bad way of thinking about the arithmetic, but it depends what conclusion you reach. Taxpayers have gone in and kept those banks in existence. They were in danger of closing or collapsing, and the taxpayer, by recapitalising them, which is what's happened in the British system, has kept them going. And now, as the bad debts are taken out of the balance sheets and put to one side, then their profits show through again, and they are essentially profitable businesses. Don't get that wrong. Now, the only where I differ from Jonathan's point, I would have said, as taxpayers, we should now sit still and we should give the whole process longer time, because I don't think Jonathan's prediction of the collapse in the property market and, in fact, the collapse in the stock exchange in the future, I don't buy that argument. The stock exchange has gone through a bad period. It's not that strong, but it's been going up. If it was my money, I would now hold on to my shares in those banks for another year or so, and then I would make another judgment. But what I would like the taxpayer to get back is a return, perhaps doubling the money that was originally put in. And this is one of these occasions when the taxpayer can actually benefit by using his money as an investment, which is going to earn a return.
Look, British Land, one of the biggest commercial property owners in the United Kingdom, told the stock market yesterday that commercial property is very fragile. We know that the banks hold hundreds of billions of pounds of commercial loans, many of which are what we call underwater. In other words, they're not profitable as they stand.
Jonathan, I know that, because I don't want to run out of time up against 10 o'clock. But the point for the punters, and I want to try and guide us to the frustrations that they're feeling. They're saying my money's been used to bail these banks out, and yet whenever I go into a bank, they're doing absolutely nothing for me.
And there were no strings attached, really, when the money was pumped into the banking system. Oh, there was some general comment about there's got to be some reasonable lending, reasonable credit. Well, we know that residential mortgages are still a half of what they used to be.
So you blame the government for not getting some sort of
yes.
something in place in firm?
They just wrote them out a cheque of our future taxes, and because of that, now we know we've had the biggest budget cuts in history just announced, and we're also having tax hikes because of the foolishness of the previous government.
Jim, hold on a wee second, John. I want to get some callers in, then I'll come back to you. Jim's in Carrickfergus this morning. Morning, Jim. Hello, Jim. Jim's not there. Mr. Forrester, are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah.
Go on ahead, Mr. Forrester. Do you feel this frustration that your taxes have been used to bail the banks out, and yet whenever you go to look for a service from the bank, we're seeing the Daily Mail this morning, they feel the need to start a campaign, make the banks lend?
Well, I don't want to lend me. I paid income tax all my life, and I'm still paying it on any savings that I've got. But the Governor of the Bank of England said 1%, and all the banks went down, right? And all they're paying now is 1% interest on any money you've got. And I depend on that money for to give me, not roughness, but it makes up for the income tax I'm paying, But you can't get that no more. No matter even if you change banks, because they're all the same. And what the guy was saying there, they're talking about the big banks. They're talking about actually breaking them down later, but they haven't decided how they're going to do that yet. So if they break them down, you're not going to get the same setup. And probably some foreign bank, i.e. a Spanish bank, might buy it. And, well, it's a good bank, but what I'm saying is it's not coming into our coffers at QB.
John Simpson?
No, what you've opened up, Joel, is a whole big range of discussions about different aspects. The first point is the banks have got to get back to being profitable. The second point is they have got to actually make themselves good housekeepers so that they can keep their banks running when the taxpayer is not supporting them. And then third, they have to start lending. To say that they don't want to lend is the equivalent of saying you're running a business and you don't want to have any sales in the shop. It really doesn't fit natural behaviour. If they're not lending, there's a reason. And in fact, what we have to do is to push them so that they actually rearrange their priorities and to get the lending there. But I think we will hear more and more the banks are ready to lend. Now, the point about interest rates... Very quickly, John. Interest rates are likely to edge up before this year is over. And you can't keep interest rates down at 0.5%, 1% at base rate.
Okay.
That's not sustainable.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your views this morning. That's the first part of the programme over. Jonathan Davis there as well on the line. Thanks very much to him. That's